Okay, let's start the session. Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to the latest talk of the Ashoka Entrepreneurship Club. We at the E-Club aim to establish the leading entrepreneurship club of the liberal arts and sciences students with the help of speaker sessions, skill building workshops, a learning community, and much more. We are super excited to welcome our speaker for today, respected Jasprit Bindra, who is the founder of Tech Whisperer and a leading blockchain and digital transformation expert. First, a bit about Tech Whisperer and Mr. Bindra. Tech Whisperer is a company based out of Cambridge, UK, which provides thought leadership and technology expertise around blockchain, AI, and digital transformation. Mr. Bindra is also the chief tech whisperer, similar to being a chief evangelist for Findability Sciences, a Boston-based enterprise AI firm. Mr. Bindra is a writer, and his book, The Tech Whisperer on Digital Transformation and the Technologies that Enable It, is an Amazon and Kindle bestseller and is emerging as a reference book in this space. He also has a column on the future of technology in the business newspaper Mint. He has previously led digital transformation across roles at Mahindra, Microsoft, and eBay India. We're going to start this meeting today with Mr. Bindra sharing his thoughts on the topic, blockchain and the future of work, followed by a question answer session. As housekeeping rules, everyone please stay muted and try to keep your cameras on. You can raise your hand during the Q&A session and you'll be recognized. That being said, I pass on the mic to Mr. Bindra. The stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Yash. Great to be here. And by the way, and thanks for a great introduction. The only thing which I would add on to it is that pretty much like you guys, but at a much older age, I'm a student again. So I'm actually right now doing my second master's at the University of Cambridge, where I am studying AI ethics and society, which is a new course there, because I'm deeply fascinated by the subject. So just wanted to add that on so that you don't ask me too many difficult questions since I'm a student like you. Good, thanks, Yash. And what we'll do is, as always, I have far more material than, why are the video thumbnails? I'm trying to figure out, can someone unmute themselves and tell me whether they can see my presentation?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is I also want the video thumbnails because I can't see any of you the moment I share my presentation. So I'm trying to see, is there a way to share where I can see you guys? Because if I don't see you guys, then I won't have any fun. I'll be just talking to slides. There seems to be a new feature which PowerPoint as virtual background video, no. Why is this? Thumbnails have disappeared. Is anyone amongst you a Zoom expert?
So maybe I'll remove the pin from you and then you can see all of us. If you could
remove what, sorry?
The pin. So sir, on the top, there's a view options, or maybe on the top right view, if you go to gallery, then you can see all of us.
Yeah, but no, I know that. And sorry for this. Wait a sec.
So you can enable the side-by-side option.
Got it. No, it's a little, the latest version of Zoom has screwed up life a little bit, but I managed to crack it, so I can see it. Okay, fine, lovely. Couple of more house rules, okay, beyond what Yash said. So one, as many people as possible, keep your videos on. I like to see faces, not slides, when I speak in this virtual environment. The second is, I would appreciate if you, whenever you get some questions, etc., just put them on chat also. Okay, and we can do the live Q&A at the end, but whatever you kind of think of in the middle, just keep on putting them in chat. Okay, the other bit is that this is a very vast topic. Okay, it could take a full course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a little selective as I kind of go through this and just jump a few things so that we can kind of come to what is the crux of the matter, which will mean that a few things will possibly go a few feet above your head, but that's the but that's unfortunately just the vastness of the topic. What I'm going to do is, this is not about blockchain only. Okay, so it is about blockchain and importantly, how it links to the future of work. And why I wanted to have the future of work here was because all of you guys would be interested in it. Okay, that's what you're here for. And how therefore work is changing in many ways, but it's also being driven by this technology as to how this, so therefore how jobs are changing, how work is changing. I'm going to talk a little about that. Yash has already kindly covered all the things. As I told you, I'm a student also. I teach also. I teach at Harvard. I teach at Duke, in a couple other places. And yeah, other things I think you've already spoken about. Look, we're going to talk about blockchain. And as this cartoon suggests, newer and newer technologies keep on coming up. They all become buzzwords and everyone wants to know about new stuff. Blockchain is something which has been there for a while now, being talked about for a while. It's yet a little early, the technology, but it does promise to be something which will be quite fundamental. The way we are going to do this session is we're going to have two tracks, one after the other. The first track will be the blockchain track, in a sense. So we're going to talk for maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes on blockchain, crypto, Web3, NFT, Metaverse, which are all large use cases of the blockchain in a sense. And then we're going to have a little bit future of work track, which is separate. And then I'll tell you at the end how they actually meet, how they actually converge into something. And therefore, what does that mean for you? So that's how we're going to do this. Look, as I said, blockchain is kind of a big word. People say it has lots of potential. If you look at this graph, there's speculation that 10% of the world GDP, which is a large number, will actually sit on blockchain-based systems. But what you also see here is that it's pretty early. So if you look at 2022, it's just a tiny little bar graph, and the real time for blockchain would be more like 27, 28, 29, 30, when it is supposed to add approximately $3 trillion to the world GDP. And so I do want to emphasize that it's a little early. It's in fact, you guys are too young to remember. But when the internet started in the 1990s, there used to be modems and used to stick one wire into RJ45 jack into the PC, and then there would be a sound like some kind of sound, and 14 kbps will flow through. And that was internet. That was the World Wide Web. Blockchain is at a similar stage, except that in our enthusiasm, we are trying to run Netflix on it, okay, without knowing that it's actually at a 14.4 kbps. So it's kind of early, and you must all acknowledge that it's not today's technology. It's pretty much tomorrow evening or day after tomorrow's technology. I'm not going to get too much into detail about what blockchain is, because if I try and demystify blockchain for you, it'll take the full hour. So, and you guys are all amazing students at an amazing university. I would love it if you go and learn about blockchain yourself. All I would say is that interpretation of blockchain is that it's like a universal ledger in the crowd, which is authenticated by consensus, and it has certain properties. What is important for you, blockchain has certain properties. It's a system which is super secure, trustworthy. It has provenance, which means you can trace transactions or anything back to where it started. It's immutable, cannot be changed. Decisions, rather than being taken at a central level, get taken by consensus of all the parties involved. And some blockchains also have something called smart contracts, which are like if-then kind of algorithms, which are baked into the blockchain. And what I will do is, quickly, for people who might be new to this, I'll play like a 30-60 second video, which is on blockchain itself, so that kind of gives you some idea of what blockchain is, and then we'll kind of move further to various use cases, etc. of blockchain. So Yash and gang, what I will do is I'm going to start playing the video. Just tell me, like in 2 seconds after the start, just raise your, just put a thumbs up or something to tell me whether you can hear and see the video or not. Okay.
Modern technology allows people to communicate directly. Voice and video calls, emails, pictures and instant messages travel directly from A to B, maintaining trust between individuals no matter how far apart they are. When it comes to money, people have to trust a third party to be able to complete a transaction. Blockchain technology is challenging the status quo in a radical way. By using math and cryptography, blockchain provides an open, decentralized database of any transaction involving value, money, goods, property, work, or even votes, creating a record whose authenticity can be verified by the entire community. The future global economy will move towards one of distributed property and trust, where anyone with access to the internet can get involved in blockchain-based transactions, and third-party trust organizations may no longer be necessary. The uses of blockchain technology are endless. Some expect that in less than 10 years, it will be used to collect taxes. It will make it easier for immigrants to send money back to countries where access to financial institutions is limited. Financial fraud will be significantly reduced, as every transaction will be recorded on a public and distributed ledger, which will be accessible by anyone who has an internet connection. Think of it as wills and contracts that execute themselves, or dated proof of existence for ideas, much like a patent. Blockchain will become a global, decentralized source of trust, but not everyone is ready to embrace it. A huge proportion of trust services, from banking to notaries, will face challenges on price, volume, and in some cases, their very survival. Public authorities could find it more and more difficult to enforce traditional financial regulations due to the new possibilities offered by the Bitcoin network to bypass traditional financial intermediaries. Unimagined new networks will evolve to meet society's needs more cheaply and potentially more securely. Will governments, financial and legal institutions embrace blockchain? What will happen to the ones who don't?
So as this video kind of suggested to you, it's kind of a decentralized network without any centralization, and it's in all the methods that it said it's going to change the world. Blockchain is difficult to understand, unlike artificial intelligence or virtual reality. I mean, I've been studying blockchain since 2015 and I possibly understand about half of it. Okay, and so it is kind of difficult. And one of the ways I like to explain it is through this very simple metaphor of a kitty party. Now, maybe you don't know what a blockchain is, but I'm pretty sure most of you know what a kitty party is. People, mostly women, gather around, have fun, gossip, have tea. Important thing is that they also bring money with them. So whenever women, all these, say there are 10 women who have come together for a kitty party, each woman brings 1,000 rupees, and that 1,000 into 10 makes it 10,000 rupees. And that 10,000 rupees is what is called a kitty. And that's why it's called a kitty party. And, there's a lucky draw which happens, and one of the women wins, and she takes 10,000 rupees. The important part is the next kitty party, when it happens, the woman who won the first time cannot participate. And so each kitty party, in a sense, is immutably linked to the last kitty party. Like in a blockchain, each block is linked to the last block. But the critical thing, and why I use this analogy, is that when 10 women are bringing 1,000 rupees each and putting it on the table, who are they trusting with the money? There is no one super big woman there or chief woman there. There is no bank there. So who is it that they're trusting with the money? And if we had more time, we would have had some fun answering that. But the answer is that actually they trust each other. They trust the fact that every woman in that kitty party will need to be hacked for someone to come and steal all the 10,000 rupees. And this concept, ladies and gentlemen, of decentralized trust, where instead of trusting one trusted authority like a bank or a government, you trust everyone else, is actually what is the core behind the technology of blockchain. And that's why crypto is actually decentralized money, okay, which doesn't have one single authority, which the one. And so what I want you to remember from the blockchain bit, if you don't remember anything else, it doesn't matter. But what I want you to remember very importantly is that blockchain breaks centralization. It is a decentralizer. It is a distributor. It's a distribution technology. Now, some of you might be aware that the first blockchain was the Bitcoin blockchain, and the Bitcoin blockchain was created by this unknown person called Satoshi Nakamoto. And Satoshi Nakamoto basically created distributed money, because centralized money had kind of fallen apart at that time because of the 2008 financial crisis. All the banks collapsed, etc. The trust in the system went away. And so he said that, look, this centralized stuff doesn't work. We need to create something decentralized. For people who are curious and mathematically inclined, you might want to download Satoshi's original paper in 2008, and you'll find that behind Bitcoin, behind blockchain, is amazing math. It's not just one small concept. It's just very densely mathematical, and it's kind of algorithmic the way it has been created. But net, blockchain breaks centralization. That is the thing that you need to remember. Now, obviously, the most well-known use case of blockchain is crypto. And everyone will now suddenly jump up. Should I trade crypto? How should I buy? Should I buy Dogecoin or Flockcoin? And this presentation is not about that. Okay, but everyone is excited about crypto. But it's today, so far, the only large global use case of blockchain. And the biggest blockchain is the Bitcoin blockchain, as you might know. But then that's not the only one. There are thousands of others. There's the Ethereum blockchain, there's Solana, there's Cardano, there's a bunch of other blockchains. The Bitcoin blockchain has a particular, the way it's been built is in a particular way where the number of remaining Bitcoins actually halve every 4 years. And so 21 million Bitcoins were created, they halve every 4 years. And the properties that it has, therefore, is similar to gold. And pretty much like gold being a finite resource, the price keeps on going up and it keeps on going up and down. The same thing, frankly. So that's why many times it's referred to as digital gold. The problem with and like miners who mine gold, there are digital miners who mine Bitcoin. But pretty much like gold, this takes a huge amount of energy. Bitcoin mining takes massive energy, and you guys might have again read about that. It's actually accelerating global warming. The amount of energy that Bitcoin takes is actually more than the country of Netherlands. Okay, and it's soon going to cross the country of South Africa. And so it's kind of unsustainable. And so people are trying to find more green ways of doing this. Again, a completely separate discussion. But Bitcoin goes, or blockchain goes beyond crypto. Blockchain use cases are across almost every industry. And this big chart tells you, if you take a glance at it, that art, tourism, energy, advertising, real estate, healthcare, education, supply chain, it's a horizontal technology, which is kind of like AI, which can be used everywhere. Again, we don't have the time to go to use cases, but remember, the fact is that blockchain breaks centralization. So many times when you have centralized businesses or industries like electricity, for example, which is centralized, you have one central power station and then you distribute to other places. There are ways using blockchain to make the economic model of distributed electricity, produce electricity where it is needed, but then make a smart grid-based economic model using blockchain, using the currency, using smart contracts within the property of smart contracts to actually make decentralized electricity as an economic model work. Similarly, and I put this in deliberately, there's a huge use of blockchain in education. It might surprise you guys to know, I mean, some of you guys are studying at Ashoka, you might go and maybe do an MBA at ISB or somewhere else, and many of you might take student loans to actually pay the fee. You would be surprised to know that in India, the highest number of non-performing assets, NPAs, more than real estate, more than agriculture, is actually in education loans. And the reason for that is because the education loan interest is low. A bunch of people furnish fake degrees to take educational loans and then use it to buy a tractor or a house or whatever else. And no one can authenticate degrees today because anyone can kind of make any degree from any college. And so what is happening is, including in India, across the world, basically what are called on-chain or blockchain-based educational degrees are coming in, which are authenticated, which are non-hackable, which are genuine. People, you can know that because you can't tamper around with the blockchain, and and that kind of makes these loans, etc., much easier. If you guys are going abroad to study, or if you have applied abroad to schools, you know the amount of transcripts you have to give, the amount of paperwork, degrees, transcripts. The reason for that is because they don't trust you. Okay, they want everything with kappa of the college and authenticated, etc., etc. Because there's very low trust in education. Blockchain is beyond being a decentralizer, is a trust technology. And imagine if all your degrees were actually sitting in one authentic blockchain, and then all you had to give to Harvard or whatever was just one public key, and they could access all your qualifications since first standard. Okay, and they kind of then can, and they know that this is genuine, it's not been hacked, it's not been put in by someone else, it has your imprint on it, it has a timestamp on it, etc., etc. And so those are the kind of use cases which blockchains are bringing in. But the real use cases of blockchain, the really exciting use cases of blockchain go beyond electricity or education or supply chains or manufacturing or identity, governance, all those places you can do that. But what the blockchain is bringing in is this completely new way of work in many ways, a new economy, which is now being called the creator economy or the passion economy. What is the, and I'm going to come back to this, what is the creator economy or the passion economy? Basically, today, anyone who, if you are an artist, for example, or if you are a music producer, you produce music, you put it on a platform like Spotify or maybe YouTube or Facebook or whatever. The platform earns much more money than you do. Many times you earn no money. The platform earns everything. So Facebook makes its shitloads of money on free content given by you. That is getting reversed. And this new kind of what is now being called Web 3, as opposed to Web 2, where your data was being sold and the platforms were earning all the money, is that this new Web 3 is basically where you, if you are a creator of anything, whether it be computer code or whether it be a written article or whether it be a nice painting or whether it be music or whether it be a video, you get a larger percentage of the revenues than the platform gets. And so you can bypass the platform and go directly to the customer. And this whole phenomenon is being what is called the creator economy. There are many sites, some of you might be aware of. OnlyFans is a bit of a naughty site, but that's where a bunch of good-looking women and men are making lots of money going directly to people who want to see them. Substack is a site where you can write stuff, get your own subscribers, and without writing in newspapers, etc., people pay you money to read your stuff. There are a bunch of these in music. There are a bunch of these in art. And the key here is that you bypass the intermediary and go directly to the end customer. Now, why I'm telling you all this is that most of this Web3 is built on blockchains, because blockchains, remember, decentralize. They move away from one platform to multiple. And blockchains also have the additional advantage of having a digital currency associated with them. And so payment, frictionless payment across this creator ecosystem can become much more easier. There's a company, for example, called Go Social, and I mention it because I'm invested in it, but also because it's in India and Anand Mahindra is invested in it. Go Social is a place where if you're a good photographer or if you're a good artist, you started with photography, you can put your photographs there. People actually pay you. Or if an advertiser comes and advertises there, 70% of the money goes to the photographer rather than to the site. This reversal of this economics is what is called the passion economy or the creator economy. I'm focusing on this because this is going to change work as we know it as we go forward. NFTs or non-fungible tokens, which you would have heard of, are nothing but one feature of the passion economy, where if someone is a painter, now there is a way to create only digital art and monetize that digital art. That never existed as a concept before. If you were an artist, 90% of the time you were very poor. 10% of the time you would kind of have your art put in some galleries who might pay you something if something sells. But now it is democratized in the sense that you can create digital art and use NFT platforms like OpenSea and a bunch of others to actually list your art and sell your art. And the art always belongs to you, though any number of copies can be created of it, but the original belongs to you. The important thing here is if I sell my NFT to Yash for 100 rupees, I get 70 rupees. Yash sells it to Jivesh for another 400 rupees. I still get a percentage of the next sale as the artist. And I get a percentage of the third sale, and I get a percentage of the fourth sale. So the creator is supreme, the creator wins, and that's why it's called the creator economy. And NFTs is one big feature of it, one big way that it gets monetized. And NFTs are built on the blockchain, usually on the Ethereum blockchain, but also now on Solana, Cardano. There are a few other blockchains which are being made for this. So in fact, the gig economy, like, you know, the Zomato part, etc., is nothing but another aspect of decentralizing work, and we're going to come to that. So that's what are NFTs. Now, what has also happened is that blockchains have given rise to another concept which we've been hearing of, which is called the Metaverse. And the Metaverse, usually I give a 3-hour session on the Metaverse. So I would not be able to do any justice to it. Okay, and it's very new and everyone has their own definition. But why I've put it here is that it's all linked. It's all linked to NFTs, it's linked to Web3, it's linked to the blockchain. Now, many of us think of Metaverse as virtual reality and a virtual reality environment, which is true. Sometimes you can think of the Metaverse as nothing but a deep gaming environment, which is also true. Some of us think of it as video avatars on Zoom here, for example, AI-driven video avatars. Some of us think as the crypto NFT thing is considered to be the Metaverse. Actually, the Metaverse is an alternate existence, an alternate universe. Meta means beyond and verse is for universe. And it has all of these things, but what it has in common, which combines all of these things, is nothing but a new business model, which is the Web3 business model, which is the creative economy business model. So the Metaverse is really it's kind of a different level of existence, which is purely online. The currency for the Metaverse is not fiat, rupees or dollars. The currency for the Metaverse is crypto. Art created in the Metaverse is NFTs. Okay, playing in the Metaverse is gaming. And so it's kind of all together, and all these things that we spoke about are actually coming in to create this new kind of existence which people are talking about. Again, the reason I put it here is because I want you to know that it is all linked. I also want to specifically talk about this particular slide because I think it's so super important to us. And it will be my last slide in the first track, which is the blockchain track. And to me, this slide explains the Metaverse better than anything else. And this is a tweet actually by a guy called Shan Puri. And basically, I'm going to read this out whatever time it takes, and because it's so important. And basically what he says is this, that everyone is wrong. Most people think the Metaverse is a virtual place, a virtual world like Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, or like Zuckerberg showed in the Facebook demo. But what if it's not a place? So what he says is the Metaverse is not a place, it's a time. It's a moment in time. In AI, some of you might be aware, there's an idea of the singularity. It's a moment in time when AI becomes more smarter than humans. The metaverse is the moment in time where our digital lives is worth more to us than our physical life. This is not an overnight change. It's a gradual change happening for 20 years. Every important part of life is going digital. You guys are young. You will understand this when I say this. Work has moved from factories to laptops. Boardrooms have moved to Zooms. Friends have moved from neighbors to followers. Where do you find like-minded people? Not in your colony. You find them on Twitter or on Reddit. Your games, actually more kids today play Fortnite than basketball and football combined. Filters are the new makeup. Stories are your personal billboard to broadcast who you are. What matters more? What you look like in real life or what you look like on Instagram? Everything goes digital. Your friends, your job, your identity. And now with crypto, your assets are online also. Bored apes are a big NFT, which people flaunt. Bored apes are the new Rolex. Fortnite skins are the new skinny jeans. So if you play this forward another 10, 20 years, we will cross into the metaverse, the moment in time when digital matters more to us than physical. And that is the alternative universe. And it's already started mattering more to us than actually a real life physical universe. And all of it is powered with blockchains. All of it has all these new NFTs, etc. And work in this is going to be very different from the way work has always been. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the next track here, which is about work. And so with all these things happening, what's going to happen to work? Are you guys studying the wrong thing? Maybe work will change totally. And you're kind of you're studying for the old work and there's the new work. And as again, this cartoon says, these are my standardized test stores, these are my report cards, these are my whatever. And the guy is saying, look, but all our openings are non-standard. Okay, and maybe that's what is really going to happen. So I want you to take to a theory, okay, which I really like. It's from a book called Reinventing Organizations by a guy called Peter Lalor. It's written below. And what he says is amazing. What he says is that work follows society. So, when way back, early human beings, we were tribal. We existed in tribes and work was structured. Organizations were structured as tribes. They were structured like a wolf pack. There was one leader, and if the leader said, go jump from a cliff, you had to go jump from a cliff. And the only way you could become the leader was by killing the original leader. And so society was like that. Organizations were like that. Society changed. It became more agricultural, etc. And work changed a little bit. Organizations changed. It became what he calls from red to amber, where it wasn't as bad, but there was still a leader with unquestioned authority. And the organization which best resembles that is the army or the church. There were no appraisals or who's good, who's bad, whatever. It was strictly by seniority. And then the industrial revolution happened, and all these GE and GMs and all these companies, Tata and Birla and all these came in, and work organizations changed again. They became what he calls orange. And that was more like the machine. There were organization structures. There were people who, you could, if you were good, there were performance appraisals. It became a little more democratic. Actually, between orange and green, there was another one which is missing here, which was blue. When the IT revolution happened and the Microsofts of the world came in, etc. And then, organization structures changed again. And you had a little bit more democracy. You could actually say stuff against the leader, etc. And then the internet revolution happened. The Googles and the Facebooks, etc. came in, and it became even more democratic. Okay, because the internet was democratic. And then you had the concept of 20% time to yourself, and you had to kind of you could be very egalitarian. You could say things against the CEO. You could strike against him, etc. Because the world was changing, organizations were changing. Now the world has changed again to the stuff that I told you, with the digital revolution, with blockchains and AI and all that stuff. And now what Peter Lalor says is that what it is going to change to is what is called the teal organization. And the teal organization is where you don't work for money, you actually work for a purpose. You don't work for one organization, you work for many organizations, where you can go in and go out, go in and go out, and amoeba-like teams get formed rather than strict organization structures. And this also explains the whole red to a blue to a teal path. But a teal organization is the future of work. And the gig economy, the Airbnbs and the Lyfts and the Ubers and the Zomatos, so far happening at lower level work. But actually, if you think about it, the same driver can drive for 3 different taxi guys. Okay, the same food delivery guy can deliver food for 5 different food delivery guys. Okay, if there were those many in the market. And so this whole way work is getting decentralized away from one organization to multiple. I've written of one company here called CVL Law, which actually follows the teal structure. Again, I'm not going to go through it, but the lawyers decide how many hours they want to work in CVL. They will decide so many more hours for themselves, so many more hours for a third company, and the whole payment happens because of that. And this whole gets kind of, there are IT systems behind, mostly blockchain based, which kind of apportion the work and decide who gets paid how much, etc. And so the future of work is changing from these rigid kind of org structures which used to exist to far more fluid, organic, lifelike org structures. And there are principles, therefore, of the future of work. Again, and some of it has already started happening. In fact, COVID has accelerated the future of work. It has made it to the present. Decent work has suddenly become decentralized. It's distributed, right? You don't work in one office. You kind of do a hybrid thing. Your collaboration is far more using technology, Zoom, Teams, Slack, the whole deal. Always on, unfortunately, 24/7. The 9 to 5 part is gone. No job for life. Learning has to be lifelong. You guys are doing your degree course. Maybe you do your MBA after that. And earlier thought was that education is over. Now I will learn. Now because I've become educated, now for the next 30 years, society will pay me every month. That's changed. Harvard, by the way, is thinking of starting a 60-year MBA. You start at 20, you end when you're 80. You learn for 2 weeks every year. Because things change. Jasprit Bindra, old man, is doing his second master's because stuff changes so fast. You can't just say, I've done all that I had to do. So lifelong learning is going to become, I've talked about fluid work, gig economy, permanent and temporary workers will become the same. Automation is the norm. Organizations work for purpose. And this new work in many ways is also reflected by a kind of org structure, which is coming up, still not there. There are a few organizations which are called DAOs, or Digital Autonomous Organization. DAO, again, is a massive subject on its own, but basically a DAO is blockchain powered. And what DAO does is that it's an organization structure which has no leader, where actually the organization is, the laws of the organization are written in computer code. It rests on an Ethereum blockchain. And you get paid in what are called DAO tokens based on the amount of work that you have done, and then you can kind of change and based on how many DAO tokens you have, you become more and more senior, quote unquote, and you decide policy more than, and that's in the blockchain world, it's called proof of stake. And so why I'm saying all these things is that there was the blockchain thing and there was the work thing, and suddenly you see that they are converging. So if you think about blockchain, I told you that the core principles of blockchain are decentralization, trust, transparency, consensus-driven transactions, traceability, smart contracts. And actually the way work is becoming is very same. Decentralization to decentralized organizations, trust to trust in one another, consensus-driven decentralized decision-making rather than CEO making decision, accountability, tracking of decision-making, self-management like smart contracts. And so that's how this weird technology called the blockchain is actually influencing work as we go forward, by decentralizing it, by creating these whole Web3 kind of things, by creating this passion economy or creator economy, where it was a given until now that people have to go to organizations for work, but now it's not necessarily true. If you have talent, you can actually monetize your talent individually. You can monetize individuality. And so that's how blockchains and in some sense work are converging. And blockchain has become a central force towards the future of work. And so my last slide, which I've never hurried through a presentation as fast as this one, but basically, what does this mean for you? Okay, this is the most important slide. You know, when I used to work, as you probably know, I worked at Microsoft, I worked in TAS, I have been in Mahindra lately, but in TAS, Microsoft, way back when social media came, Facebook, Twitter, all this happened, people didn't know what to do with it. Okay, you can go join Facebook, but what do you do on business with it? And then they would say, Acha, you know what, we should have some more Facebook followers, we should have friends, we should have some more Twitter followers. And so then gradually they started thinking of this thing called social media managers. And first they used to get some interns to come. Acha, you manage our social media. Oh, we don't know what the shit this is. Then people realize has to be a full-time job. And now you know social media, digital marketing is a core job. The same thing is going to happen with metaverse managers. A big, big, big role, as big as social media, digital marketing, is actually going to be metaverse managers. People who manage a company's presence in the alternative universe. And they will need to know everything about Web3 and crypto and blockchain and all the stuff that we spoke about. That's one implication. So Bernard Marr, who's a big influencer, actually, I've copied his tweet, just like many in the early 2000s thought that they would never have a social media presence. Many leaving it in the hands of their summer interns to manage and set up the corporate social media accounts. Brands in the 2020s will need to start setting up metaverse teams that will help them enter the era of Web 3.0. And that is going to be a massive change. Working in DAOs and the future of work, all the things that I told you. In fact, one of the things which is going to become very big, and thankfully, is that the world will change from one company, many employees, to one employee, many companies. One company, many employees, to one employee, many companies. So I totally expect that. I mean, I do it now. I work for many companies, frankly. I'm not an employee of one. I'm given designations. I even have email addresses of those companies. Okay, but I work for 3-4 of them. And so will you guys. Initially, start will be 1-1, but the world will change much faster than we thought. Your resumes, all this resume of PDF and all is going to be thrown out of the window. Even LinkedIn is becoming like Facebook. Okay, it's not going to be important anymore. Your resumes will be on chain. Basically, whenever you go to a prospective employer, you will give them a public key to your record on some blockchain. And the person will access it and basically see what you have done rather than what you claim to have done. And it's going to be that much faster, simpler, etc. Then I've obviously told you about the passion economy and the gig economy. A lot of you, hopefully, will not be working for organizations, but will be working for yourselves. I mean, you're in the entrepreneurship course, I believe, anyway. But entrepreneurship does not necessarily mean creating a company. Entrepreneurship would also mean you working as one person, which I do, by the way. And then the last thing is that for all of this to happen, you'll have to start experimenting and learning things now. Go mint an NFT, even if you don't want to make any money out of it. Okay. Go figure out what is Decentraland or Sandbox. These are all kind of places in the metaverse. Okay. Learn more and more about all the things that I told you. Figure out what a DAO is. One day, who knows, those will be the org structures de facto. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Blockchain and the future of work. And you know what? They're so similar, actually. This is my book. I obviously have to talk about it. I've named my company after it. And you see this green patch in the book. The green patch is actually an article, is a chapter. This chapter, if you open to the green patch, is a chapter on AI written by an AI. So that was the first time that happened in a book. And so it therefore sold. It was a little before its time, but you got to do stuff before its time. And that's what I would like you to do. That don't be like, all these things are in the future and dekhi jayegi jab aayega. But many of these things are now. So thank you very much. And I'm quickly going through, I don't even know what the time is. I am quickly going through stuff which you guys have written. How big is Bitcoin's footprint? Okay, someone has already given that. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's a massive problem. And as ever we talk about blockchain and Bitcoin, you'll realize how big a problem it is. But what are the things that people are doing to try and solve that also? It's actually accelerating global warming for us. Someone has a newsletter called Milk Road, which I don't know who it is. Who's has Milk Road? Anyways, you can write it. When you move the gallery to the left, we can't see the table. Too late for that. Can we get recording of this session that Yash will tell you? We will be posting it on YouTube. Okay. YouTube will make a lot of money. I agree. You will share part of it. Let's create a DAO in Ashoka for crypto society. Actually, that's a very good idea. It's just not very easy to do, to be very honest. I will come to your questions. I'm just going through this, what is written here. Maya, yeah. So, a lot of, actually, there's a lot of similarity between both Indian and Western philosophy and all this metaverse thing. And I mean, actually what I'm studying, which is ethics, AI and ethics, is not being taught by the engineering school. You'll be glad to know. Is not being taught by the business school also. You'll be glad to know. Is actually being taught by the philosophy school and the history school. Okay, the business and engineering schools don't even know that this course exists. So, so that's where one is learning that there's so much in common between deep philosophy and technology. Okay, I do a talk. In fact, my book has a full chapter. I'm sure all of you are going to go buy it. Has a full chapter on the philosophy behind blockchain, which is very different from the technology behind blockchain. We didn't obviously have the time to talk about it, but Shanpuri, yeah, that Milk Road. Yeah, absolutely. Shanpuri is amazing. You should follow Shanpuri. You should follow this guy called Bernard Marr, M-A-R-R. You should follow Naval if you don't already do, Naval Ravikant. You must follow Balaji's, B-A-L-A-J-I-S. Okay, these are the kind of gurus of mine. A lot of stuff actually is from them. Blockchain in urban farming, Hema Sima, not really, not that I know of. In overall agriculture, there are some potential use cases. Urban farming, not that I know of. Sustainable is blockchain. Vedika, already I've told you it's not. In fact, that's a big problem. A lot of people are coming out with what they call sustainable blockchains, but that's pretty much a fraud. There are some things you can do to the technology to reduce the carbon footprint. But beyond that, people really go buy carbon credits. They do nothing beyond that, and therefore make it quote unquote green. And therefore it is impacting the feasibility of implementing blockchain on a global scale. Moving from proof of work, Hema, Sima, I don't know how do I call you, but proof of work to proof of stake absolutely is one way to reduce the green footprint. The problem with proof of stake is the real pure blockchain, if you want to keep the purity of blockchain and its consensus, etc. mechanisms, they should actually be proof of work. The moment you make it proof of stake, you're automatically centralizing it to some extent. And that's a problem. Okay. And therefore it's in fact, you should Google and see something called the blockchain trilemma, not dilemma, trilemma, about how there are three things: scale, security, and consensus. And you can only do 2 out of the 3 so far. No one has been able to do 3 out of 3. And that's one of the problems. Okay. So, yeah, should I be just calling people out, or will you be telling who to call? You'll need to unmute yourself, however.
I'll moderate the session, sir.
Okay, please tell me. Yeah.
Perfect. So before I hand it over to Divya, actually, to ask the question that we've collected and also from the participants, I'll use this opportunity to ask one of my questions first. So I just wanted to understand blockchain and crypto. It's decentralized, and by that we can think that it's one platform for the full world to use. But we also
there are multiple platforms.
Right. But do you see going forward in the future countries trying to build their own metaverse platforms to get hegemony in this space?
Metaverse or crypto?
A mixture of both, sir, because they are interlinked.
They are, but every technology is interlinked with each other. So again, I'm asking, own currency or their own metaverses?
More specifically, metaverses.
Okay, I have no idea. The metaverse is a word which emerged about 10 years back. The guy Neil Stephenson, whose novel contained the word metaverse, actually says that he invented it. Like, he says the word is actually a bit of shit. That's his words, not mine. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a word which has become fashionable at this point of time. Okay, it's too early to figure out how it's going to shape up. Okay, and what will it mean? Countries doing it, if it shapes up into something which makes sense. South Korea has announced something, but so far everyone is just riding on the PR value of saying, metaverse, I'm doing metaverse, I'm doing metaverse. All they're doing is glorified virtual reality. So I don't see them yet doing that. Currencies, yes, and a bunch of countries are doing that.
Okay, perfect. Divya, you want to moderate this now?
Yes. Hello, good evening. It's early. It was.
Sorry, I didn't know that I was supposed you were moderating. I just went on answering.
No, it's completely fine. I would actually go with the questions of the people who have raised their hands, and then I'll ask a couple of questions of my own.
You won't have that much time though, so you'll have to be quick.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So let's just have the questions like to the minimal, just like maybe 1-2 sentences, and then so I can answer. Okay, Manas, if you can go ahead.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much, sir, for having this presentation. So my question was, every structure has its shortcomings, like the centralized structure there happened to be great inequalities when in the beginning it seemed very efficient. So apart from climate change and rapid climate change, what could be the shortcomings of this decentralized structure?
Oh, there are massive shortcomings, massive. Okay. The DAO revolution started many years back. In fact, a bunch of companies wanted to create their own DAOs 4, 5, 6 years back. But it hasn't worked yet. Again, one of the reasons it hasn't worked yet is because we still like to have central authority, whether we like it or not. Okay, we still like it. Okay, we are wired for it. Okay? And we still don't want to take responsibility. We want to shove it on to someone else. So that's the biggest psychological. There's also technology reasons. You need a full stack of tools to help you manage it. Like you have so many management systems in traditional organizations, HRMS, CMS, AMS, TMS, all those aren't built. Okay, and so there are multiple other problems, but these are the two which I will, for the sake of time, kind of just talk about these two.
Thank you.
Ritik, then Abhavir.
So I wanted to ask, what do you think about employee compensation? How would that change in a DAO? Because with a centralized authority, you have a particular compensation that's fixed and you only get paid as much value as you add to the company, right?
No. You don't. Sorry to stop you, but continue. Sorry. Okay, continue.
No, I was saying that's after the company takes its cut. So do you see that increasing a lot?
You will realize when, I'm sure you guys, some of you were working before also, but as you work more, you will realize most companies have a 20-80 principle. 20% of the companies, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Okay, but that's not how payments go. Salaries in traditional companies are nowhere linked to your productivity. Okay, they are decided in beginning of 1 year based on your experience, your grade, etc., not by your output. The DAO, actually, if it works well, actually pays you precisely on the number of on the output. Now, different companies, different DAOs will have different ways to measure output, but actually is a much more fairer way in that sense. It will basically be based on proof of work. How much work done, proof of work, and you pay for that work. Sometimes proof of stake, since we use those words, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But that's one of the big advantages of the DAO is that everyone kind of gets paid theoretically based on the contribution done, which is not true in any conventional company so far.
I also had a question related to the employment topic. So with the financial institutions, it's basically going to change. And if you're looking at just India and the illiterate population that we have, how do you feel the employment situation in financial institutions would change in a country like India?
So I don't know the exact answer to that question, to be very honest, Divya. The thing is that the financial institutions haven't worked for a country like India. About 80 to 90% of our rural population is unbanked. I think, Yash, can you hear me? I think we've lost Divya, right? She's frozen.
Yes, but we can hear you, sir.
Okay, fine. So maybe I'll take Divya's question a little later. You want to?
Sure. Abhibir, you want to go next?
So I was wondering if a political institutions would be willing to accept this level of decentralization that would come with blockchain.
Abhi, you want the short answer or the long answer?
Medium?
There's no medium. All of us want medium stuff here. We have to decide one of the two, short or long.
Long.
The short answer is no. Okay, absolutely not. And the long answer, I won't give you a long, I'll just tell you. The biggest problem of this entire thing that I told you today is that most people of my age and older, and maybe even younger, don't like it. It means changing so much. It means removal of authority. Okay, it means losing power. Democracy is just a name. It means going against sometimes basic tenets of capitalism. It means rich people getting richer and poorer getting poorer goes away, which the rich people do not like at all. Okay, and so there are massive social forces against all this decentralization. The technology, frankly, will be solved, is the easy part. Sure, today we have problems, but we have lots of good people who will solve that. The social part, the political part, as you said, that's the long answer which I gave you. I am very skeptical whether it will happen to the extent that we think it will. But some stuff will happen in some countries.
Thank you, sir. Abhishek?
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much. I have a lot of questions, but I'll restrain myself to few.
One. That's a rule.
Okay, sir. Only one. Main thing, you talked about the resume thing. Like, how do you think our personal identity will be in the Web3 world? Like, even now, you see that people say something, and then if one particular section don't like, they get say some company resigns them or something like that. Like, how do you in Web3 it will be like everything, right? From the day you started into the web, entered the metaverse or say whatever, and then till the time you are there. So like, will anyone be able to see everything from with a public key?
Well, that's a very good question and a very complex question, and a question I barely have scratched the surface of. But identity is one of the biggest impacts of this whole Web3 is going to happen is actually on identity, including your Aadhaars of the world, etc., etc. People are still working at it. In the ideal scenario, you will be able to expose yourself and your data and your personality to only the set of people you want to. You will only be able to monetize your data to the extent that you want to. Data will become currency, along with credit cards, debit cards, bitcoins, cash, maybe. In your wallet, there will also be data, which you can sell, your data, health data, personal data. But what form it will emerge, whether it will be everything will be open, as you said, is a vast subject, frankly. And again, it'll vary a lot based on the political and social structures of that particular country, because the world is not one country. So in China, it will be different. In Europe, it will be different. In India, I have no idea what it will be, but it will be different. So it's a vague answer that I'm giving you because there's no one answer to that.
So taking your due permission to extend this by like 5 minutes, can we take one or two last questions?
Sure, 2 questions. Let's make it 2 questions.
I think Divya is back. Divya, you want to ask your question? Okay.
Sir, can I ask the question?
Yeah, Priyanshu, go ahead. We'll conclude with Divya.
Namaste, sir. Sir, I am a first year student in BTech CSE. Sir, what should I do to learn more about blockchain so that it becomes more helpful in progressing my career? And what are the prerequisites?
Yeah. Look, there are 100 things you can do, okay? And you're in first year, you've got your life ahead of you. Well, you can always start by reading my book and going to my website and seeing my blockchain video on YouTube, but that's normal. There are innumerable sources. There are free courses on the MOOCs like Coursera, etc. There are a bunch of books which might be in your library. The Enterprise Blockchain is one. Blockchain Revolution is another. It's a very popular subject. And so what I would suggest is just spend your time reading as much about from as many sources as you can. And then, since you're a computer engineer, start looking at how you could, you could even code on blockchain using Python, frankly. Go to your GitHub repositories of blockchain, take out the subroutines from there, see how you can learn some of the stuff. See if you want to learn Solidity, which is the programming language for Ethereum. So there are 100 things you can do. You start reading so that you figure out what within it that you're interested in, and then go deeper into that. Last question, Yash.
Last question for Prince. Prince? Okay, Gaurav.
Hello, sir. The session was very insightful. So I have a complex question. So at this point in the real world, we treat digital currencies as digital assets and not as currencies at the moment. And there are metaverse like Decentraland, which have restricted themselves to usage of one currency like mana. So to have liquidity, they have to be exchangeable with other currencies like mana should be able to be exchanged by Bitcoin. For that to be possible, there has to still be existence of real world currencies like rupee or US dollar. So do you think there will be coexistence of these currencies?
Gaurav, one of the things is what you're saying is only true for India. It's not true for the rest of the world. Okay. Because it's only in India where we have, where the finance minister has gotten up and said that we're going to treat cryptocurrencies as assets, not as currency. That's not necessarily true elsewhere. Absolutely, we need to have this, you kind of have to go to exchanges and do within currencies. In India, the government is fumbling. It has no clarity. And until then, the only thing to do is either to do stuff illegally, okay, or to go and do stuff in what are called peer-to-peer exchanges. Binance has a peer-to-peer exchange where you can do all the stuff that you said. But as and when clarity comes in, or if you go and move to a country beyond India, or if it's possible for you to set up a wallet identity outside India, you can do all the stuff that you want. Even in India today, you can, because so far they have just put out the statement, not yet enforced it. But if they enforce the fact that this is an asset, like you said, and not a currency, then there will be some problems. Having said that, they will still hopefully find a mechanism where you'll have to pay a tax on it, etc. But you can still do what you want. So the problem that you have identified is nothing to do with technology. It has only to do with a particular country's regulations. And until those regulations change, that problem will exist.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Since we are out of time, I'll just like to conclude. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today and taking out time from an extremely busy schedule. I'm sure everybody learned a lot and most importantly, enjoyed a lot. We would love to have you on campus sometime again for an even longer talk. We would also like to thank Dr. Priyank and the InfoEdge Center for Entrepreneurship for mentoring and guiding us. And thank you so much all the attendees for joining us on a Sunday afternoon. And have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks. And look, my apologies. There's a huge topic. We had to conserve it, compress it in. So I was a little brusque sometimes, but would love to have this interaction, as you said, in a longer, more interactive setting. And I'm sure we can go into have much more fun and go into much more detail than we could do today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir.